thank you so much, Katrina, for taking time out of your busy day and like having us interview you. And obviously, this is for the Women's on the Move, so I'm really excited to feature you. So our first question is, what does allyship mean to you in both your personal and professional life?
Well, I'm very honored that you're chatting with me today about this. It's really great. I don't think we've ever done a series like this, which is a lot of fun for Roosevelt University. Allyship to me is having someone's back, right? How do we step up and support our colleagues, our friends, my literal sisters, my figurative family, you know, chosen family, sisters. So, how do we have their back in times that they need it, but also trying to be mindful of times that they may not reach out and may not be asking, but
Exactly.
you're thinking about, okay, I know they're going through this, or maybe they have a big event coming up. Maybe they're struggling with something at home, like a colleague. Just reaching out, connecting, letting them know that you're there. To me, that's what allyship is. Just really trying to think, be empathetic, and be there for both colleagues and family, and chosen family.
Yeah, I love that you have this like proactive approach to it, right? Like being there regardless, whether the good and the bad, right?
Yeah.
So that's great, thank you. And
Yeah.
then can you share a memorable moment when you stood by a colleague or sister in need and what impact did it have?
Sure. Gosh, I've been in higher education since 1993. So I've had the opportunity to do this. I'm trying to think of a good example.
Or maybe even when someone stood there for you, right? Like
Yeah.
showed up for
Well,
you.
I'd like to say back in the 2016 election, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I know that I had a colleague that was concerned about who might be elected and how was the university gonna
Yeah, sure.
respond. And I remember going and speaking to the president and others saying, we need to be prepared. We don't need, it's going to be, there's no concern. And I ended up working with my colleague and saying, we're going to have our own thing. We're going to address this. We're going to be prepared because we don't know how
Exactly.
the election results are going to be. And it turns out it was a really good plan. But just being there to listen, and then she had all these students come in and speak with me as a result. And I really just appreciate when we can have the empathy, but also plan a little for the what might be, what might not be. How do we stand with each other? Maybe not being able to relate because we're not experiencing it ourselves, but we can be empathetic.
How can women support one another to create inclusive and empowering workplaces?
Yeah, I think for me, again, so have you ever done the strengths
Yes,
finder
yes,
thing?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
One of my strengths is empathizer, and I always think of it
Mine
as a gift
too.
and a curse. In
Yeah.
some ways, the gift is that it allows us to think differently and feel differently. But sometimes when you go into a room and it's tense, it's like, oh, I don't need to feel all this right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think, how would you want to be supported? How um, were you grateful for a time a sister stepped up for
Yeah.
you and supported you in the past, or maybe they didn't, and you don't want to be like that, right? And
Right.
so, for example, my team, I love my team, and I like, so yesterday, for example, someone was in the office, one of my team members, and the provost came in, was at the door. I said, come on in, listen to this great work that they're doing,
Yeah.
right? I want to be able to highlight what they're doing. They have end of semester reports that they do, and I
Great.
like to share that out with other leaders on campus so that they know they're doing really great work. And I like to be mindful about who's in the room, whose voices are being represented. What's the makeup? Do we have a diverse um, religious or LGBTQ race? I
Exactly.
mean, what's the
Yeah.
diversity of the team, and are we really supporting our women? I'm very passionate about supporting women. A lot of times in leadership, they're not, well, they don't have
Always
leadership
represented.
positions.
Yeah.
Or sometimes in meetings, someone talks over them, right? And I
Mm.
like to say, I'd like to just get back to,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
a point that this person was making.
Yeah.
Um, I think professionally too, what are opportunities? Maybe someone invited me to, and I'm like, well, I think maybe, someone that I work with might be even better, or could we invite them as well?
Yeah,
Right. So trying
yeah.
to think about ways that they could be included, be invited, and grow professionally.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's so important, especially I'm hearing like sharing your platform, right? Like
Yeah.
recognizing that you have the ability to share that platform and
Mm.
then even like invite people into the conversation. I think is so important. So having that like self-awareness is what I'm hearing a lot about. Just yeah, being able to do that and and that's what creates an inclusive environment, right?
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm also human enough or realistic enough to know that there might be times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally should have included, but I
Yeah.
also have that ability to say, oh my gosh, I totally should have included these different voices.
Yeah,
So yeah.
for
Thank you.
sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. What excites you the most about the upcoming Woman on the Move Standing by My Sister conference?
That it's happening. I'm really so excited.
Yes.
So since I've been here, I've been wanting something really for students. There are a lot of
Yeah.
times that we do.
It's okay.
I'm just hitting my microphone. There are a lot of times that we do things like there's the Women's Leadership Council, and I think it's fantastic. But there's a lot of alumni and community leaders. But I love that this has a large student focus because
Yeah,
I want our young women to see themselves as being leaders in whatever career they have.
exactly.
And being able to share with them um, things like about imposter syndrome. Maybe they don't even know that they are that's
Experiencing that.
experiencing
Yeah,
it,
that's
and being
fair.
able to have a conference and a space to provide for them to learn more about this and what it
Mm-hmm.
means to be a woman in their field at the university and even at home in some ways,
Exactly.
like how's it all apply. So I'm really thrilled that it's just happening.
How do you personally ensure that allyship is part of your daily life and leadership style?
Well, I'm going to give you an example of what happened when I worked at the University of North Texas in Dallas. And I remember my boss saying to me, this person wants me to create a position for them and I don't even know them. And it was an assistant provost position.
Mm.
And I remember sitting there like, I still have that feeling of like, oh gosh, I really want that job. I really want to do that. And
Mm.
I still feel it as I think back on it, like how
Yeah.
nervous I was. But I said, I'm speaking up now. And I said, I'd really like that position. And you know me well.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I've done. And here's what I
Mm-hmm.
could do. And I'm happy to learn about other ideas that you might have for this
That's huge.
position.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, oh, I had no idea you were thinking about that.
Look at
But
that.
I think that makes sense. Let's think about it. Let's talk about it over the next couple of months and see if we can make it happen.
Look at that. Imagine if you had never asked.
I
Yeah.
know. How great is that? So
Yeah.
that's just still one of my favorite stories. But it was also another woman leader, sister leader,
Yeah.
bringing me along and
Mm-hmm.
helping me to grow and learn. But it's still one of my favorite things I like to share with people, like speak up, but also knowing the appropriate time. If
Right.
you've been somewhere for a month, you're not, don't say,
Right.
can I be director now?
But knowing your worth and your
But
value.
knowing your worth and your value
Exactly.
and working with someone a bit to be able to say, my worth and my value too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how do you take advantage of one-on-ones or meetings that you have with your supervisor or other leaders to,
Yeah.
share some of that work that you're doing, but also share the work that your colleagues are doing? It's not just about, I'm really
Exactly.
awesome, but
Exactly.
I work with a really great team.
Yeah.
And if I continue to lead in this way, this team is going to continue to do really great work and can contribute in other ways too. So, yeah.
Yeah. I hear like just like that self-awareness of like knowing, okay, here's my value. Now I'm going to advocate for myself,
Yeah,
right? And like knowing here are the things that I've done and I'm excited to learn and grow. Like I
exactly.
love that you even acknowledge that obviously you're not perfect, right? But
Mm.
you're willing to learn and that's what comes with the job too.
Yeah, and it just makes your job more exciting. Like when you can continue to learn and
Exactly.
try new things, right?
Right.
And bring little pieces of um, new things into what you've been doing for a while. How fun is that?
Exactly.
And I know
Exactly.
this is a strange aside, but I like to think the more we learn, the less likely we'll have Alzheimer's
Oh,
one day. Keep our brains
there you
active. I
go.
mean,
Yeah.
along with healthy lifestyle.
Of
But
course.
I
Yeah.
just like to keep my brain active and keep learning new
Yeah, and
things.
being that like lifelong learner that we always hear
Exactly.
about.
I
Exactly.
love higher ed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Was there anything else you wanted to mention or talk about?
Um, I love that you're doing this again. I really am honored that you all were interviewing
Oh, we
me.
knew for sure. We were like, Katrina.
That's so
We got
great.
it.
I'm like, wow, I feel so honored.
Of course.
And I guess for me, I think it's really important when we have the opportunity. Like I do a lot of things behind the scenes to help the students' lives be easier or hopefully fewer obstacles.
Mhm.
I don't have to be the face of that, but I want my team to know,
Mm,
this is what I'm doing and I'm supporting you. I really think that's important that we as leaders let our teams know that we've got their back. And I think
exactly.
really allyship, this conference, it really sounds like you're supporting and promoting
And uplifting.
and uplifting women's
Exactly.
voices and saying we've got your back. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for doing it.
Of course. And we look forward to seeing you there and your
Yeah, it's
team.
already on my calendar.
Yay!
Yeah,
Okay,
so thank
perfect.
you.
Of
Yeah.
course.
It was
Yay.
lovely chatting with you.
You too. I feel like I should stop by more often.
You should. Yeah.
Okay, you'll be seeing my face more for sure.
So-